and I'm here to take you on a calming journey that will help you sleep better. Make sure to like and subscribe, then get comfortable and let the peaceful sounds of nature help you drift off. I never believed in ghosts or anything supernatural. Growing up on the outskirts of Syracuse, New York, where the only terror was the rusty stench wafting from the old steel mills, I always thought horror stories were for kids or folks with too much imagination. But the summer of 1983, when I was 28, changed everything. Fresh off a messy breakup and tired of the suffocating grind of life, I took a job as a forest ranger in the Adirondacks, a remote stretch of wilderness, far from anything I'd ever known. I thought it'd be paradise, a place to escape, to find myself again. I was wrong. They stationed me at a fire lookout tower on Blue Mountain, about an hour's drive from Long Lake, a speck of a town with a population barely outnumbering the squirrels. The first few weeks were almost serene. I'd wake at dawn, brew coffee on my tiny propane stove, and watch the sun climb over an endless sea of green. No cell service, no human chatter, just the wind whistling through the leaves and birds singing like a natural symphony. I got used to the stillness, even started to crave it. But then, something crept in, a feeling that slithered into my mind, as slow and inevitable as the shadows stretching at dusk. It was a late August evening when it started. The sky blazed with oranges and pinks as I sat on the tower, sipping a lukewarm beer, soaking in the quiet beauty of the forest sprawled below. Everything seemed normal until it wasn't. About half a mile east, a patch of trees began to move, not just swaying in the breeze, but moving. They thrashed violently, like they were trying to rip themselves free from the earth. My heart skipped a beat. I squinted, straining to see, but there wasn't a hint of wind. The air was heavy, dead still, so quiet I could hear my own pulse pounding in my chest. I grabbed my binoculars, hands trembling slightly. Through the lenses, the scene turned even stranger. The trees weren't just swaying, they were raging. Branches lashed against each other like they were caught in an invisible storm, trunks bending in ways that defied nature, as if something unseen was tearing at them from within. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead, my breath catching in my throat. Then, like a ripple spreading across water, the bizarre motion surged through the forest, creeping closer to my tower. My heart slammed against my ribs. I snatched the radio, fumbling with the buttons. Hey, anyone there? Something's seriously weird out here. My voice cracked in the empty space. The response was a burst of static, then a gruff, probably just a downdraft. Don't sweat it. But I knew it wasn't wind. No breeze could make an entire forest come alive, screaming in silent fury. That night, sleep didn't come. Every creak of the wooden cabin, every rustle of leaves outside, jolted me upright, my heart racing like it might burst. I told myself it was my imagination, that the isolation of the wilderness was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew better. Something was out there, lurking in the dark between the trees, and it had seen me. When dawn broke, I thought I'd feel relief. I didn't. Stepping outside, I gazed down at the valley below, and a new kind of terror sank in. The forest was silent, dead silent. No birds, no wind, not a single sound except my own ragged breathing. And then, at the far edge of my vision, amidst the shadowed trunks, I caught a glimpse of something yay tall, distorted shape, not of this world. It stood motionless, staring right at me. I didn't know what it was, but I knew, in that moment, I was being hunted. The moment I saw that thing standing at the edge of the trees, my world tilted. I couldn't tear my eyes away from it. Tall, twisted, a shadow that didn't belong among the pines. It didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, watching me with an intensity that drilled into my skull. My hands gripped the railing of the lookout tower so tight the wood groaned, my breath fogging in the crisp morning air. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs felt like they'd been poured into concrete. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. 1 second it was there, the next it melted into the trees like smoke, leaving nothing but the oppressive silence pressing down on me. I stood frozen, scanning the forest, waiting for it to reappear. It didn't, but the quiet hit was worse than any sound. No birds, no rustling leaves, just a void that seemed to swallow everything alive. My gut churned. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't done with me. I spent the rest of that day on edge, jumping at every shadow, every creak of the tower. I told myself it was a trick of the light, maybe a bear standing upright, distorted by the morning haze. But I'd seen bears before, clumsy lumbering things. This wasn't that. This moved with purpose, with intent. By midday, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my pack, my hatchet, and headed out on patrol, hoping the routine would shake the dread clinging to me like damp rot. The forest felt different as I descended the trail from Blue Mountain. The air was thick, heavy with a stillness that made every step echo too loud in my ears. I called out once, "Hello? Anyone there?" More to hear my own voice than expecting an answer. The words fell flat, absorbed by the trees like they'd never been spoken. I kept moving, eyes darting between the trunks, half expecting that shape to loom up again. It didn't, but the feeling of being watched never left. It was like the forest itself had eyes, tracking me, waiting. About an hour into my rounds, I stumbled across something that stopped me cold. A clearing small, unnatural, like the trees had been pushed aside by some unseen force. In the center, the ground was torn up, claw marks gouged deep into the dirt, radiating out like a spider web. They weren't bare tracks too long, too deliberate, with an extra digit that didn't make sense. Beside them, a smear of dark red stained the earth, glistening wet in the muted sunlight. My stomach twisted. Blood? Fresh blood. I knelt, my hatchet trembling in my hand, and traced the edge of one claw mark with my finger. It was deep, too deep, for anything I'd ever seen in these woods. My mind raced. A wounded animal. A hunter's kill. But there were no footprints, no signs of a struggle, just those eerie scratches in the blood, soaking into the soil like an offering. I stood, wiping my hand on my pants, and that's when I heard it. A low, guttural growl, rolling through the trees like distant thunder. My head snapped up. The sound wasn't close, but it wasn't far either, somewhere to the north, vibrating through the ground beneath my boots. I spun, searching the tree line, hatchet raised, but nothing moved. The growl came again, deeper, closer, and this time it carried something else, a whisper, faint and rasping, woven into the sound like a voice from a nightmare. Rick. I froze. My name. It knew my name. Panic clawed at my chest. I backed away from the clearing, my eyes locked on the shadows between the trees, waiting for that thing to burst out. The growl faded, replaced by silence so thick it felt like a weight pressing on my lungs. I turned and bolted, branches snapping under my feet, my breath ragged in my throat. I didn't care about the trail anymore. I just ran, the forest blurring around me, that whisper echoing in my skull like a taunt. I made it back to the tower as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a sickly red. My hand shook as I barricaded the door with a chair, my hatchet still gripped tight. The cabin was dark, the only light a flickering lantern casting jagged shadows on the walls. I sat there, staring out the window, waiting for something, anything to happen. The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating, until I thought I might scream, just to break it. Then, in the dead of night, it came. A sound, not a growl this time, but a slow, deliberate dragging, like something heavy being pulled across the forest floor. It was faint at first, barely audible over the pounding of my own heart, but it grew louder, closer, until it was right outside the cabin. I pressed myself against the wall, peering through a crack in the shutters. There, in the dim moonlight, filtering through the trees, I saw it again, that tall, twisted shape. It stood just beyond the clearing around the tower, motionless, its head tilted like it was listening. Its arms too long, too thin dangled at its sides, dragging slightly as it shifted. I couldn't see its face, just a dark, hollow mass where features should have been. But I felt its gaze boring into me, icy and unyielding. The dragging sound stopped. It took a step forward, slow and deliberate, and the air turned cold, colder than any night had a right to be. My breath fogged in front of me, my fingers numb around the hatchet. It took another step, and the lantern flickered, dimming as if the light itself was afraid. Then it spoke again, a rasping whisper that slithered through the walls. "Rick, you can't hide." The lantern went out. Darkness swallowed the cabin, and the last thing I heard was the creak of the floorboards just outside my door. The lantern snuffed out like a candle pinched by invisible fingers, plunging the cabin into a blackness so thick it felt alive. That rasping whisper, "Rick, you can't hide," hung in the air, coiling around me like smoke. My breath hitched, fogging in the sudden, unnatural cold that seeped through the walls. The creak of the floorboards outside stopped, replaced by a silence that was somehow worse, a silence that waited, heavy with intent. Whatever was out there, it was right at my door. I gripped the hatchet so hard my knuckles ached, pressing my back against the wall, eyes locked on the sliver of moonlight seeping through the crack in the shutters. My heart hammered loud enough to drown out my thoughts, but I strained to hear anything, any sign of what it would do next. Seconds stretched into eternity, and then I heard it. A soft, deliberate tap. Not a knock, not a thud. Just a single, sharp tap against the door, like a claw testing the wood. Tap. My stomach dropped. I slid down the wall, crouching low, trying to make myself small, invisible. Another tap, slower this time, followed by a faint scrape like nails dragging down the grain. I bit my lip to keep from screaming, tasting blood. The chair I'd wedged under the doorknob trembled slightly, as if something was pressing against it, testing its strength. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. All I could do was watch that chair, praying it held. Then, a low growl rumbled through the cabinet from outside, but inside. It vibrated in my chest, deep and guttural, like it was coming from the walls themselves. My eyes darted around the dark room, searching for the source. But there was nothing, just shadows twisting in the corners, stretching longer than they should. The growl grew louder, angrier, and the air turned frigid, my breath now a cloud of frost curling in front of me. I scrambled to my feet, hatchet raised, backing toward the tiny window at the far end of the cabin. The growl shifted, following me, echoing from the floorboards beneath my boots. I froze mid-step, realization sinking in like a blade. It wasn't just outside anymore. It was here. The floor creaked under me, not from my weight, but from something else. A slow, splintering groan, like the wood was bending, cracking apart. I looked down, and in the faint moonlight, I saw it. The planks buckling upward, as if something was pushing from below. My breath caught in my throat as a thin, jagged crack split the floor, widening with a sickening snap. From the gap, a faint greenish glow pulsed, unnatural and sickly, casting a dim light across the room. I stumbled back, my heel catching on the edge of the cot, nearly dropping the hatchet. The crack widened, and that dragging sound started again, not outside, but beneath me, slow and deliberate, like long limbs scraping against the underside of the cabin. The growl turned into a hiss, sharp and venomous, and I swear I heard my name again, Rick, woven into it, mocking me. I lunged for the window, fumbling with the latch, my fingers numb and clumsy. The glass was fogged over, but through it, I glimpsed that shape again, twisted, standing just beyond the clearing. It hadn't moved closer, but it didn't need to. It was everywhere now, side, below, inside my head. The latch clicked open, and I shoved the window wide, the cold night air rushing in like a slap. But before I could climb out, The floor exploded. Wood shards flew upward, slicing the air, one grazing my cheek as I ducked. That greenish glow flared bright, blinding me for a second, and the cabin shook like it was caught in an earthquake. I hit the ground hard, the hatchet skittering across the floor, out of reach. Through the haze of dust and light, I saw it a long, gnarled arm clawing its way up from the splintered hole. Its skin wasn't skin, it was rough, cracked, like tree bark, blackened by rot, and its fingers were impossibly long, ending in claws that gleamed wetly in the eerie light. I scrambled backward, my hands clawing at the floor, my mind blank with terror. The arm reached higher, groping blindly, and then a second one emerged, slamming into the wood with a force that cracked the remaining planks. The growl was deafening now, a roar that rattled my skull, and the air thickened with a stench rotting wood, damp earth, and something fouler, like death itself. "Rick," the whisper came from the hole, low and deliberate, dripping with malice. I didn't think. I rolled, grabbing the hatchet just as the first arm swiped at me, claws raking the air inches from my face. I swung wildly, the blade sinking into something solid bark-like flesh that splintered under the blow. A shriek tore through the cabin, inhuman and piercing, and the arm recoiled, retreating into the hole. The second arm lashed out faster, catching my leg and yanking me toward the glowing abyss. My nails dug into the floor, scraping for purchase, but the pull was relentless. I kicked, screamed, swung the hatchet against anything to break free. The blade connected, and another shriek split the night, the grip loosening just enough for me to wrench my leg loose. I stumbled to my feet, blood pounding in my ears, and hurled myself through the window, crashing onto the cold ground outside. Behind me, the cabin groaned, the greenish light flaring brighter as the thing clawed its way up. I didn't look back. I ran hatchet in hand, lungs burning into the dark, endless forest. The sound of splintering wood and that guttural roar chasing me into the night. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs screamed, the forest swallowing me whole. Branches clawed at my face, tearing at my skin, but I didn't stop. Behind me, the cabin's destruction echoed through the trees, the crack of splintering wood, the guttural roar of that thing clawing its way out from under the floorboards. The greenish glow flickered in my peripheral vision, casting warped shadows that danced across the pines, but I didn't dare look back. I knew it was there, chasing me, its dragging steps, thudding against the earth like a heartbeat out of sync with my own. The night was a maze of darkness, the moonlight barely piercing the thick canopy above. My hatchet swung wildly in my hand, a useless lifeline against whatever was hunting me. The air was frigid, biting into my lungs with every ragged breath, but it carried that stench-rotting wood and something rancid, like a grave freshly unearthed. It was everywhere, inescapable, seeping into my pores. I stumbled over a root, crashing to my knees in the dirt, the hatchet slipping from my grip. My palms scraped raw as I scrambled to grab it, my eyes darting around the shadowed trees. The forest was too quiet again, no wind, no animals, just that dragging sound, slow and deliberate, growing louder, closer. My heart thudded so hard I thought it burst, my breath fogging in the cold as I whispered to myself, "Get up, Rick, get up." I hauled myself to my feet, clutching the hatchet, and took off again. The dragging stopped, replaced by a low, resonant growl that seemed to come from the ground itself, vibrating up through my boots. The trees around me shifted subtle at first, a slight sway, then more violent, their trunks bending inward like they were leaning to trap me. I swerved, ducking under a low branch, but it snapped down, grazing my shoulder with a crack that echoed like a gunshot. The forest was alive. Not just the thing chasing me, but the forest. The realization hit me like a punch. It wasn't just hunting me. It was hurting me, guiding me deeper into its heart. I could feel it in the way the path twisted, the way every trail I took looped back toward, that greenish glow now pulsing faintly in the distance. My mind raced, searching for a way out, but there was none. The Adirondacks had turned against me. I burst into a small clearing, gasping for air, and stopped dead. Before me stood a tree-hued, ancient, its trunk gnarled and twisted like a giant's spine. Its bark was dark, almost black, split with deep fissures that oozed a faint, sickly light, the same green I'd seen under the cabin. Roots sprawled from its base, thick and writhing, pulsing like veins under the earth. It wasn't just a tree, it was wrong, alive in a way that made my skin crawl. And hanging from one of those roots, half buried in the dirt, was a backpack. My blood ran cold. I staggered closer, my hands shaking as I pulled it free. Mud-caked and torn, but I could still make out the name stitched on the side. Winters. One of the missing campers' 3 college kids from Buffalo who'd vanished a few days back. HQ had radioed me about them before the weirdness started. Said they'd last been seen in a part of the woods that wasn't even on the maps. I'd been planning to search for them tomorrow. Now, here was proof they'd been here right where I stood. A twig snapped behind me. I whirled, hatchet raised, and there it was, tall, hunched, its bark-like skin glistening wetly in the dim light. It moved jerkily, like a puppet on broken strings, its 2 long arms dragging through the dirt. That hollow face-or, where a face should have been tilted toward me, and I felt its gaze, cold and piercing, even without eyes. The growl came again, low and menacing, and this time it carried my name, clear as day. Rick. Instinct kicked in. I swung the hatchet, aiming for its chest, but it lunged faster than anything that size had a right to be. Claws raked the air, missing me by inches as I dove aside, rolling into the dirt. The tree loomed above us, its roots twitching like they were feeding off the chaos, that green glow flaring brighter. I scrambled up, swinging again, and the blade bit into its arm bark, splintered, and a shriek tore through the clearing, so loud it shook the ground. It staggered back, but only for a second. Then it straightened, towering over me, its claws flexing as if savoring the fight. I backed away, tripping over a root that hadn't been there a moment ago. The forest was moving, closing in. Trees around the clearing bent inward, their branches weaving together overhead, blotting out the sky. The air thickened, choking me with that rotting stench, and the ground beneath my feet softened, sucking at my boots like quicksand. I swung the hatchet wildly, chopping at the roots, but they kept coming, writhing, grasping, wrapping around my ankles. The thing stepped closer, slow and deliberate, its growl now a hiss, dripping with hunger. Rick, you're mine. The words slithered into my skull, and I felt a pull knot just from the roots. But from inside me, like something was clawing at my mind, trying to drag me under. The tree pulsed, its light washing over me, and for a split second, I saw them shadows in the glow. Figures, human-shaped, trapped in the roots, their mouths open in silent screams. Winters, the campers, and others, dozens of them, stretching back through time, all part of this thing, this forest. I screamed, hacking at the roots with everything I had, but they tightened, pulling me down. The creature loomed closer, its claws gleaming, and the last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was that hollow face, tilting down as if to claim me for good. The roots yanked me down, hard and fast, like the earth itself had opened its jaws to swallow me. My scream choked off as dirt flooded my mouth, my lungs burning as I clawed at the ground, desperate for air. The hatchet slipped from my fingers, lost somewhere above, as the forest pulled me under into its dark, pulsing heart. The last glimpse I had of the clearing was that thing's hollow face looming over me, its claws glinting in the sickly green glow of the ancient tree, and then nothing. Just blackness and the suffocating weight of soil pressing in from all sides. I thought I'd die right there, crushed or smothered, but the fall didn't stop. The earth gave way beneath me, and I tumbled into a void, a cold, damp cavern beneath the forest floor. I hit the ground hard, pain exploding through my ribs as I rolled to a stop, gasping for breath. The air down here was thick, rancid, tasting of rot and something metallic, like blood left to fester. My hands scrabbled in the dark, finding slick stone and tangled roots that pulsed under my touch, alive and warm, as if they were veins feeding some unseen beast. A faint green light flickered above, seeping through the jagged hole I'd fallen through, barely enough to see by. I staggered to my feet, every muscle screaming, and scanned the space. The cavern stretched out around me, its walls lined with roots that twisted and curled like a nest of serpents, glowing faintly with that same unnatural hue. And there, scattered across the floor, were bones, hundreds of them, some yellowed with age, others disturbingly fresh, their surfaces slick with moisture. My stomach lurched. Winters, the campers, they were here, or what was left of them. I took a step, my boot crunching on something brittle, and froze as a low growl rumbled through the chamber. It wasn't above me anymore, 'twas here, echoing off the walls, vibrating through the roots. My eyes darted around, searching for it, but the shadows were too thick, shifting and writhing like living things. Then I saw it, a glint of movement in the dark, a flash of bark-like skin, and those impossibly long claws. It was down here with me, circling, waiting. Rick? The whisper slithered through the air, closer now, dripping with a hunger that made my skin crawl. I backed up, my hands empty, defenseless without the hatchet, until my spine hit something solid, a root-covered wall. The growl deepened, and the ground trembled beneath me, the roots tightening around my boots like they were tasting me, testing my resolve. I pressed against the wall, my breath shallow, my mind racing for a way out. The green light pulsed brighter, and in its glow, I saw them again, those shadowy figures from above, trapped in the roots. But now, they weren't just shadows. They were clearer, their faces twisted in agony, mouths gaping as if screaming silently into the void. One of them, a young guy, maybe 20, had wide, unseeing eyes and a backpack strap still tangled around his arm. Winters. His head jerked toward me, and for a split second, I swear he saw me, his lips twitching like he was trying to speak. Help. The word wasn't a sound, it was in my head, faint and desperate, cutting through the growl. My blood ran cold. They weren't gone. They were still here, alive in some twisted way, bound to this place, to that tree. The growl turned into a hiss, and the creature stepped into the light fall, hunched, its bark-like flesh glistening with something wet and dark. Its arms dragged along the ground, claws scraping stone with a sound like nails on glass. That hollow space where a face should have been tilted toward me, and I felt its presence like a weight crushing my chest, a voice clawing at my mind. You're mine now. I bolted, dodging a swipe of its claws that shattered the stone where I'd been standing. The cavern shook, dust raining from above as I ran, weaving through the maze of roots and bones. The thing didn't chase, it followed, slow and deliberate, its dragging steps a steady drumbeat behind me. The roots moved with it, curling up from the floor, snapping at my legs like hungry tendrils. One caught my ankle, yanking me off balance, and I crashed down, my hands slamming into a pile of bones that crumbled under my weight. I rolled, scrambling back, and saw it closing in, those claws flexing, its head tilting as if savoring my panic. The green light flared, and the roots surged, wrapping around my wrists, my chest, pinning me to the ground. I thrashed, kicking, but they tightened, digging into my skin, warm and slick like living flesh. The creature loomed over me, its hiss filling the air, and I felt that pull again inside me, tugging at my thoughts, my will. Join us. The whisper wasn't just from it now. It was from the roots, from the bones, from the cavern itself. The figures in the roots writhed, their faces stretching toward me, pleading, accusing. Winter's eyes locked onto mine, and his voice, his real voice, rasped in my skull. Don't fight it. It's easier. My vision blurred, the glow swallowing everything as the roots pulled tighter, sinking deeper. I could feel them inside me now, threading through my veins, my mind. The creature raised a claw, poised to strike, and I saw my fate in its hollow gaze. Not death, but something worse. To become one of them, trapped forever in this living tomb. But then a sound, a faint, distant crack, like wood splitting far above. The creature froze, its head snapping upward. The roots loosened, just for a moment, and I tore free, rolling to my side, gasping. The growl returned, angrier now, and the cavern trembled as that crack grew louder. Something was breaking through from above. I didn't wait to find out what. I ran, deeper into the dark. The creature's roar chasing me as the green light flickered, and the roots reached out to drag me back. I ran blind, the cavern's darkness swallowing me as the creature's roar thundered behind. My boots slipped on the slick stone, every step a gamble against the roots that surged from the floor, snapping at my heels like starving beasts. The air was a choking stew of rot and damp, my lungs screaming for relief. But I couldn't stop not with that thing so close, its dragging claws scraping the ground in a relentless rhythm. The faint green glow pulsed erratically now, flickering like a dying heartbeat, and that crack from above grew louder, sharper, rattling the cavern with each splintering boom. I didn't know what it was, rescue collapse, or something worse, but it was my only shot. The roots lashed out, one wrapping around my calf, yanking me back. I twisted, slamming my fist into it, feeling it squirm under my knuckles like living muscle. It recoiled, and I stumbled forward, crashing into a wall of tangled roots that pulsed with that sickly light. My hands clawed at them, tearing through, desperate for an escape, when the ground buckled beneath me. A deafening snap split the air, and the ceiling above exploded inward. Dirt and splintered wood rained down, the green glow flaring blindingly as something massive broke through a searchlight's beam. Harsh and white, slicing through the dark, voices shouted, muffled but human, and for a fleeting second, hope flared in my chest. The search team Vade found me, but the hope died fast. The roots didn't stop. They surged upward, thrashing against the light like it burned them, and the creature's roar turned into a shriek furious, unearthly, shaking the cavern walls. I ducked as a chunk of stone crashed down beside me, the beam sweeping wildly, illuminating the horror around me. Bones gleamed wetly in the light, the trapped figures in the roots twisting in agony, their mouths gaping wider, as if the intrusion enraged them. Winter's face loomed close, his eyes bulging, his voice a ragged whisper in my mind. They won't save you. The light caught the creature, and I saw it fully for the first time. It was taller than I'd realized, its bark-like skin cracked and oozing a dark, tarry sap that dripped to the ground, sizzling where it landed. Its arms long, sinewy, ending in claws like blackened, scythes lashed out, slashing at the roots as if they'd betrayed it. That hollow face tilted upward, and a guttural hiss erupted from it, so loud it drowned out the shouts from above. "Rick Callahan, you down there?" A voice franked alerts. The grizzled ranger leading the search team cut through the chaos. I opened my mouth to yell back, but the creature spun toward me, its claws slashing the air inches from my throat. I dove, rolling across the bone-strewn floor, my hands scraping against something sharp, a rib, maybe, or a femur. The light swung again, blinding it for a moment, and I scrambled toward the hole, where a rope now dangled from the surface. The roots weren't giving up. They coiled around my legs, tighter this time, cutting into my skin as I grabbed the rope. I pulled, my arms burning, but the creature lunged, its claws raking the stone beside me, sending sparks flying. "Rick," it hissed, and I felt that pull again inside my skull. A cold, slithering presence trying to drag me back, to make me one of them. "Pull him up, now." Frank's voice barked from above, and the rope jerked, hauling me upward. The roots snapped under the strain, but the creature didn't stop. It leaped, claws sinking into the wall below me, climbing with a speed that defied its size. I kicked wildly, my boot connecting with its hollow face, and it shrieked, slipping back just enough for the team to yank me through the hole. I hit the forest floor hard, gasping, surrounded by 5 rangers, Frank and his crew, their faces pale in the searchlight's glare. "What the hell's down there?" Frank demanded, his voice tight, but I couldn't answer. My eyes locked on the hole as that green glow flared again, brighter, angrier, and the ground trembled beneath us. "Move. Get back," I croaked, scrambling to my feet, but it was too late. The earth erupted, roots bursting upward like spears, piercing the clearing. One ranger, Tom Young in green, screamed as a root impaled his leg, dragging him toward the hole. Frank fired his rifle, the shots echoing uselessly as the roots twisted, pulling Tom down. His screams cut off abruptly, swallowed by the dark. The creature climbed out, its bark-like form towering over us, claws gleaming wetly. The searchlight caught it full on, and I saw something new, a single amber eye, glowing in that hollow face, burning with a hatred older than the forest itself. It didn't growl this time, it roared, a sound that shook the trees, and the roots surged again, faster, hungrier. Frank grabbed my arm, yanking me back. "Run, damn it." We bolted, the remaining rangers firing at the thing, but the bullets sank into its flesh like it was nothing. The forest closed in around us, branches snapping down, roots rising from the ground, and that roar chased us, growing louder, closer. I risked a glance back. The creature stood atop the hole, its amber eye locked on me, unblinking, as the roots dragged Tom's lifeless body underground. The tree loomed behind it, its green veins pulsing wildly, and I knew this wasn't over. It wasn't letting me go. We ran into the night, but the forest wasn't done with me yet. We ran like hunted animals, the forest a blur of snapping branches and writhing shadows. Frank's grip on my arm was iron, dragging me forward as the creature's roar rolled through the trees behind us. A sound so raw it felt like it was tearing the night apart. The searchlight bounced wildly in one ranger's hands, casting jagged beams that only made the darkness feel deeper, more alive. My legs burned, my chest heaved, but I couldn't stop, not with Tom's screams still echoing in my skull, cut off as the roots dragged him under. The ground beneath us shuddered, roots breaking through the soil like jagged teeth, forcing us to leap and stumble to avoid them. The trees bent inward, their branches clawing at us, snagging clothes, slashing skin. One caught Frank's shoulder, ripping his jacket as he cursed and tore free. "Keep moving," he barked, his voice hoarse, but I could hear the fear in it, fear he'd never let show in all his years as a ranger. The jeep was close. I could see its faint outline through the trees, parked at the old logging road where we'd started the search. Hope flickered, frail and fleeting, but it died the second the roar turned into a hiss, sharp and close, slicing through the air. I risked a glance back, and my blood froze. The creature was there, loping after us, its amber eye glowing like a lantern in the dark, cutting through the fog that rolled in thick and sudden. Its claws dragged furrows in the earth, its bark-like skin glistening with that tarry sap, and the forest moved with its roots rising, branches bending, all in sync with its hunt. "Get to the jeep," Frank yelled, shoving me ahead as he turned, rifle raised. The other 2, Rangers Jim and Carl, followed suit, unloading their guns into the thing. The shots cracked through the night, muzzle flashes lighting up their grim faces, but the bullets sank into its flesh like pebbles into mud. It didn't even flinch. It lunged, claws slashing, and Carl went down, a gurgling scream ripping from his throat as the roots surged up, wrapping around him, pulling him into the ground. Jim fired again, screaming, "Die, you bastard!" but the creature swatted him aside like a rag doll, sending him crashing into a tree with a sickening crunch. Frank grabbed my collar, hauling me toward the jeep as the forest erupted around whose roots spearing upward, branches snapping down, the air thick with that rotting stench, and the creature's relentless hiss. Rick, mine. We reached the Jeep, Frank shoving me into the passenger seat as he leaped behind the wheel. The engine sputtered, then roared to life, tires spinning on the muddy road as we peeled out. The creature's claws raked the back of the vehicle, metal screeching, but we pulled away, the logging road stretching ahead into the dark. My hands shook, blood pounding in my ears, and I twisted to look through the rear window. It stood there, motionless now, its amber eye glaring after us, unblinking, as the roots coiled around Jim and Carl's broken bodies, dragging them under. Frank didn't speak, his knuckles white on the wheel, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it'd crack. The Jeep bounced over ruts, the forest blurring past, but the silence between us was heavy, suffocating. I wanted to believe we'd escaped, that the nightmare was behind us, but I could still feel that pull, deep inside, like a splinter lodged in my soul. The green glow lingered in my vision, the sickly afterimage that wouldn't fade, and my skin itched, hot and tight, like something was crawling beneath it. We hit the main road to Long Lake, the Jeep's headlights slicing through the fog, but the trees didn't let up. They loomed closer, their shadows twisting unnaturally, and that hisset was faint now, but still there, whispering through the wind. Rick, my name again, slithering into my head, and I clutched my skull, trying to shut it out. Frank glanced at me, his eyes sharp with worry. You okay, Callahan? No, I rasped, my voice barely my own. It's still with me. I can feel it. He didn't answer, just floored the gas, the Jeep lurching faster. But then the engine coughed, stuttering, and the headlights flickered. Frank cursed, slamming the dashboard, but it was no use. The Jeep slowed, rolling to a stop on the deserted road. The fog pressed in, thick and alive, curling around us like a shroud. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint creak of the trees bending closer, their branches scraping the roof. I fumbled for the door, but Frank grabbed my arm. Don't, he said, his voice low, urgent. It's out there. I followed his gaze through the windshield, and my heart stopped. The creature stood ahead, barely visible in the fog, its amber eye glowing brighter now, a beacon of malice. Roots slithered across the road, slow and deliberate, creeping toward the Jeep. The air grew colder, my breath fogging inside the cab, and that hiss filled my head again. Rick, you can't run. Louder, insistent, clawing at my mind. My skin burned now, a searing heat spreading from my chest, and I yanked my shirt open, staring in horror. There, etched into my flesh, was a mark green jagged, glowing faintly like the tree's veins, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. Frank's eyes widened, his face paling. What the hell is that? It marked me, I whispered, my voice trembling. It's not letting me go. The Jeep rocked as roots coiled around the tires, squeezing with a groan of metal. The creature stepped closer, its claws glinting, and the fog thickened, swallowing the headlights until all I could see was that eye, burning through the dark, calling me back to the forest. The Jeep shuddered as the roots tightened their grip, metal groaning under the strain like a dying animal. That amber eye burned through the fog, unblinking, locked on me with a hunger that twisted my gut. The air inside the cab turned frigid, my breath a jagged cloud, as the creature's hiss slithered into my skull. Rick, come back. Each word a claw scraping at my sanity. My chest throbbed, the green mark pulsing hotter, faster, sinking with the sickly glow creeping through the windshield. Frank fumbled with the keys, cursing under his breath as the engine sputtered uselessly. Start, damn it, he growled, slamming the dashboard, but the Jeep was dead strangled by the forest's will. The roots coiled higher, wrapping around the axles, cracking the glass with a slow, deliberate crunch. I grabbed the door handle, my hands shaking, but Frank's voice cut through the panic. Don't move, Callahan. It wants you out there. I froze, my eyes darting between him and the creature. It stepped closer, its bark-like form towering in the fog, claws dragging furrows into the road. The roots pulsed beneath us, vibrating through the floor, and I felt it inside me. That mark burning like a brand, tugging me toward the dark. It's not just out there, I rasped, clutching my chest. It's in me, Frank. I can't. The words choked off as the windshield shattered inward, glass exploding across us. Frank yelled, shielding his face, but I ducked to light a shard sliced my forearm, blood welling up hot and fast. The roots surged through the broken window, writhing like snakes, their tips glistening with that tarry sap. One lashed out, wrapping around Frank's wrist, yanking him forward. He roared, pulling his knife free and slashing at it, but the root tightened, dragging him halfway out of his seat. "Rick, help me," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. I lunged, grabbing his arm, pulling against the root's strength, but it was like fighting steel cable. Another tendril shot in, coiling around his leg, and he screamed a raw, guttural sound as the roots hauled him through the windshield. I clung to him, my fingers slipping on his bloody jacket, but the forest was stronger. With a final, sickening snap, he was gone, dragged into the fog, his cries swallowed by the dark. I scrambled back, slamming against the passenger door, my heart pounding so hard I thought it'd burst. The creature loomed closer, its amber eye glaring through the ruined windshield. And the roots didn't stop, they reached for me now, slow and deliberate, savoring the chase. The mark on my chest flared, a searing pain that dropped me to my knees, my vision blurring with green. That hiss filled my head again. "Rick, you're mine." And I felt it, a pull deep in my bones, urging me to surrender, to step out and let it take me. But I wouldn't. Not yet. I kicked the door open, tumbling onto the road, the cold gravel biting into my hands. The fog was a living thing, thick and suffocating, curling around me like a shroud. I ran, blind and stumbling, the creature's dragging steps thudding behind me, steady and unhurried. The roots rose from the ground, snapping at my legs, but I dodged, weaving through the trees as they bent closer, their branches clawing at my face, my arms. Blood trickled down my cheek, mixing with the sweat and dirt, but I kept moving, had to keep moving. The forest was a labyrinth, twisting and shifting, every path looping back toward that pulsing green glow. I could still feel in my chest. My skin burned where the mark sat, a constant reminder that I wasn't free. It was inside me, growing, spreading. I stumbled into a ditch, my ankle twisting with a sharp jolt of pain, and collapsed against a tree, gasping for air. The hiss was louder now, closer, and I pressed my hand to the mark, feeling it throb under my fingers, alive and hungry. Rick. The voice wasn't just in my head anymore, it was everywhere, echoing through the trees, the ground, the fog. I looked up, and there it was, standing at the edge of the ditch, its amber eye blazing, its claws flexing as if tasting the air. The roots slithered closer, rising from the earth like a tide, and I saw them again, those trapped figures, faint in the green light, their faces pressed against the tendrils, mouths moving in silent pleas. Frank was there now, his eyes wide and unseeing, his hands clawing at nothing as the roots wound around him, pulling him deeper. I screamed, shoving myself up, but the roots were faster. They wrapped around my legs, my waist, dragging me down into the mud. The creature stepped closer, its hollow face tilting, and I felt that pull against stronger. Final. My vision swam, the green glow swallowing everything, and I heard Frank's voice, faint and broken. "Don't fight it, Rick," before it faded into the hiss. The mark burned hotter, spreading across my chest, and I clawed at it, my nails digging into my own flesh, drawing blood. The roots tightened, sinking into my skin, and I felt them inside me, threading through my veins, my mind. The creature raised its claw, poised to strike, and I saw my reflection in that amber inot. Just me, but them, all the souls it had claimed, staring back through the dark. Then a gunshot. The sound cracked through the night, sharp and sudden, and the creature staggered, its claws slashing the air as it shrieked. The roots loosened, just enough, and I tore free, rolling down the ditch, my body screaming in protest. Another shot rang out, then another, and I glimpsed headlights, piercing the fog. Someone was here. I crawled toward the light, the creature's roar shaking the earth behind me, but I didn't look back. The mark pulsed, a searing reminder that it wasn't over, not by a long shot. The headlights sliced through the fog like a lifeline, their harsh glare scattering the shadows as gunshots cracked the air. 3, 4, rapid and desperate. I crawled toward them, my hands sinking into the muddy ditch. The creature's shriek reverberating behind me, a sound so raw it rattled my bones. The roots loosened their grip, slithering back into the earth, and I hauled myself up, staggering toward the light, every step a battle against the searing pain in my chest, where the mark pulsed like a second heart. A battered pickup truck loomed out of the mist, its engine rumbling, door flung open. A figure leaned out, rifle in hand, firing into the dark where the creature thrashed. "Get in, now," a voice barked, gruff, unfamiliar, but human. I didn't hesitate. I threw myself into the passenger seat, slamming the door as the truck lurched forward, tires spinning on the slick road. The creature's claws raked the tailgate, metal screeching, but we pulled away, the fog swallowing it whole. I slumped against the seat, gasping, my vision swimming with green. The driver, a wiry man in his 50s, grizzled beard streaked with gray, kept one hand on the wheel, the other gripping the rifle across his lap. His eyes flicked to me, sharp and wild, then back to the road. "You're damn lucky I was out here," he growled, voice rough as gravel. "What the hell were you doing in those woods?" I couldn't answer, my throat raw, my mind a mess of panic and pain. The mark burned hotter, spreading tendrils of heat under my skin, and I clawed at my shirt, tearing it open. The green veins glowed brighter now, jagged lines snaking across my chest, pulsing in time with the forest's unseen rhythm. The man glanced over, his face palling. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, swerving slightly. "What is that?" It marked me, I croaked, my voice barely audible over the engine's roar. "The forest. It's alive. It won't let me go." He didn't respond, just floored the gas, the truck bouncing over ruts as the fog thickened around us. The trees loomed closer, their branches scraping the roof, and that hiss crept back, Rick, faint but insistent, slithering through the hum of the tires. I gripped the dashboard, my knuckles white, fighting the pull in my chest, the voice in my head that whispered surrender. "Who are you?" I managed, forcing the words out. "Name's Bonaventure," he said, eyes locked on the road. "Bonaventure Lewiston. Been hunting these parts for years. Heard the shots, figured someone was in trouble. Didn't expect that." He jerked his head toward the rearview mirror, where the fog churned, hiding whatever chased us. The truck jolted as something heavy slammed into the back a root, thick and glistening, bursting from the ground. Bonaventure cursed, wrenching the wheel, but another crashed through the passenger window, glass shattering across my lap. I yelled, kicking at it, feeling it writhe under my boot like a living thing. Bonaventure fired the rifle one-handed, the shot deafening in the cab, and the root recoiled. Black sap splattering the dashboard. "It's not giving up," I shouted, my voice cracking. The mark flared, a jolt of pain doubling me over, and I saw it through the fog. That amber eye glowing, closer now, the creature loping alongside us, matching the truck's speed. Its claws gleamed, its hollow face tilted toward me, and the roots kept coming, spearing from the road, wrapping around the tires. Bonaventure yanked a flask from his coat, shoving it at me. "Drink this now." I fumbled with it, spilling half the whiskey down my chin, the burn snapping me out of the haze. He swerved again, the truck fishtailing as a root punched through the floorboard, inches from my leg. "Hold on," he roared, and floored it, the engine screaming as we barreled through the fog. The creature leaped, landing on the hood with a crunch that buckled the metal. Its claws sank in, amber eye glaring through the windshield, and I froze. The mark pulsing so hard I thought my chest would split open. Bonaventure slammed the brakes, and it slid forward, crashing into the trees ahead. He hit the gas again, veering off the road, branches snapping against the sides as we plunged deeper into the forest. "We can't outrun it," I yelled, but he ignored me, his jaws set, eyes narrowed. The truck rocked, roots surging beneath us, and the creature's hiss filled the air. "Rick," mine, louder, closer, inside my skull. My vision blurred, green overtaking everything, and I felt that my body wasn't mine anymore. The mark was spreading, my hands trembling as the veins crept up my arms, glowing through my skin. Bonaventure glanced at me, his face hardening. "Fight it, kid. You're stronger than that thing." He yanked a hunting knife from his belt, slashing at a root that breached the cab. Sap sprang across us. The truck swerved, crashing through a thicket, and for a moment, the creature was gone lost in the fog. But the silence didn't last. The engine coughed, then died, the truck rolling to a stop in a small clearing. The fog pressed in, thick and alive, and the roots slithered closer, circling us. Bonaventure reloaded his rifle, his hand steady despite the chaos. "We're not done yet," he said, but his voice wavered. I clutched my chest, the mark burning like fire, and felt it a shift inside me, a hunger not my own. The creature's amber, I glowed through the trees, and the forest pulsed with it, calling me back. I wasn't just marked, I was changing. And then I heard its Frank's voice, faint and twisted, from the dark. "Rick, join us." Frank's voice cut through the fog like a blade. "Rick, join us." Twisted and hollow, a shadow of the man I'd known. It wasn't just in the air. It was inside me, echoing through the green veins, snaking up my arms, pulsing with the mark that burned hotter with every breath. The truck sat dead in the clearing, its engine silent, surrounded by roots that slithered closer, their tips glistening with that black, tarry sap. Bonaventure gripped his rifle, his eyes darting between the trees, but I could barely focus. My body wasn't mine anymore. The fog thickened, curling around us like a living thing, and the creature's amber eye glowed brighter, a beacon in the dark. It didn't move, just watched, its hollow face tilted, claws flexing as if savoring the moment. The roots pulsed in rhythm with the mark, and I felt it, a hunger, sharp and alien, clawing up from my chest, urging me to step out, to give in. My hands trembled, the green glow creeping higher, threading through my skin like a disease. "Rick, snap out of it." Bonaventure's voice was a lifeline, rough and urgent. He grabbed my shoulder, shaking me hard, but his touch burned. The mark flared, and I shoved him back, my strength not my own. He stumbled, catching himself against the truck, his eyes widening. "What the hell's happening to you?" "I don't know," I rasped, my voice cracking, raw with panic. "It's changing me. I can feel it wanting me too." The words choked off as the hunger surged, a primal need to tear, to consume, flooding my mind. I clawed at my chest, nails digging into the glowing veins, drawing blood that shimmered green in the dim light. The forest pulsed with me, the roots tightening their circle, and Frank's voice whispered again, "It's easier, Rick. Let go." Bonaventure raised his rifle, aiming past me into the fog. "Fight it, damn it. You're not one of them yet." He fired, the shot cracking through the night, and the creature hissed, its amber eye flickering as it shifted in the trees. The roots lashed out, one spearing toward the truck, and Bonaventure dove aside, rolling into the dirt. I staggered back, my vision blurring, green overtaking everything, the world tilting as the hunger gnawed deeper. I saw them, then shadows in the fog, stepping closer. Frank, Tom, Carl, Winters, all of them. Their forms twisted, their skin cracked and bark-like, eyes glowing faintly green. They moved jerkily, like marionettes, roots trailing from their limbs, binding them to the forest. Frank's face was the clearest, his grizzled features stretched into a grotesque mask, his mouth opening to speak. "Join us, Rick. It's peace." But his voice was a chorus, layered with the others, a haunting plea that sank into my bones. "No," I screamed, falling to my knees, my hands slamming into the ground. The roots surged, wrapping around my wrists, sinking into my flesh, and I felt them inside me, threading deeper, pulling at my mind. The creature stepped into the clearing, its claws dragging, its amber eye burning into me, and the hunger flared, overwhelming, drowning out my screams. I saw myself through its gaze, not Rick Callahan, but one of them, a shadow bound to the forest, hungering forever. Bonaventure fired again, the bullet grazing the creature's arm, sap spraying as it shrieked. He grabbed my arm, hauling me up, his face grim. "Move, kid. We're not dying here." He dragged me toward the trees, away from the truck, as the roots lashed out, one catching his leg. He slashed with his knife, cutting free, but the creature lunged, claws slashing the air inches from us. We bolted into the forest, the fog swallowing us, the shadows trailing close. My body fought me every step, a war against the mark, the hunger, the voices whispering surrender. The green veins pulsed brighter, my skin splitting where they grew, and I stumbled, crashing into a tree. Bonaventure pulled me up, his breath ragged. "Keep going, you fight it." But I wasn't sure I was. The hunger was stronger now, a ravenous need to turn back, to join them, to tear into Bonaventure and feed the forest. I shoved him away, my hands shaking, green blood dripping from my fingers. I'll hurt you." He didn't flinch, grabbing my collar, his eyes fierce. "You're not gone yet. I've seen worse, trust me." He yanked me forward, and we ran, the creature's hiss chasing us, the roots snapping at our heels. The forest twisted around us, trees bending, paths warping, but Bonaventure seemed to know where he was going, his steps sure, despite the chaos. We broke into a narrow ravine, the walls steep and rocky, the fog thinner here. He pushed me against the stone, his knife out, scanning the dark. "Stay with me, Rick. You're stronger than this thing." But the mark pulsed, the hunger roared, and I felt my hands twitch not to fight, but to grab, to pull him down. Then I heard Italo growl, not from the creature, but from deeper in the ravine. The shadow shifted, and Frank's voice echoed again, "Rick, you can't escape." Closer now, joined by others, a chorus of the damned. The creature's amber eye glowed above us, perched on the ravine's edge, and the roots slithered down, reaching for me. I wasn't Rick anymore, I was theirs. The ravine was a trap, its steep walls closing in like a coffin as the creature's amber eye glared down from above. A predatory sun in the fog-choked dark, roots slithered down the stone, their tips gleaming with that black sap, reaching for me with a patience that chilled me more than their speed ever could. Frank's voice, "Rick, you can't escape," swirled through the air, a chorus of the lost now, Tom and Carl and Winters joining in, their whispers weaving into the creature's hiss, pulling at the green veins that throbbed beneath my skin. Bonaventure pressed me against the rock, his knife flashing as he slashed at a root that darted too close, sap spraying across his weathered face. "Stay with me, kid," he growled, his voice a lifeline I could barely grasp. But my body wasn't listening. The mark burned, a wildfire spreading through my chest, my arms. My mind-green blood oozed from the cracks in my skin, dripping onto the stone, sizzling where it landed. The hunger roared inside me, not just a want, but a need, to tear, to consume, to join them. I shoved him back, my hands trembling, green claws where my nails should have been. "Get away," I snarled, my voice guttural, not mine anymore. "I'll kill you. I can't stop it." The creature's hiss filled my skull. "Rick, mine," and I felt my legs buckle, the roots wrapping around them, sinking into my flesh like they belonged there. Bonaventure didn't flinch, his eyes fierce, locking onto mine. "You're not gone yet, damn it. Fight." But the fight was slipping away. The shadows crept closer. Frank, Tom, Carl, Winters there bark-like, forms shambling through the fog. Eyes glowing green, mouths gaping in silent screams that echoed in my head. Frank reached out, his hand twisted into claws, and I saw his face splitting, roots bursting from his skull, pulling him apart and stitching him back together in a grotesque mockery of life. "It's peace, Rick," he rasped, and the others nodded, their voices a drone. "Peace, join us." The creature leaped down, landing with a thud that shook the ravine, its claws sinking into the stone. Its amber eye burned into me, and I felt the mark pulse in sync, my body jerking like a puppet on strings. The roots tightened, dragging me toward it, and the hunger surged. I saw Bonaventure through its gaze, not as a man, but as prey, flesh to rend, blood to feed the forest. My hands clawed green, monstrous swished toward him, and I roared, a sound that wasn't human, fighting to hold them back. Bonaventure fired, the rifle's cracked, splitting the air, but the bullet sank into the creature's chest, sap oozing as it staggered, unfazed. He slashed with his knife, cutting a root from my leg, and yanked me free, shoving me deeper into the ravine. "Move, Callahan," he shouted, but the creature lunged, claws raking his arm, blood spraying across the stone. He grunted, stumbling, and I caught him, my strength unnatural, the mark fueling me even as it consumed me. We ran our staggered through the narrow pass, the creature's hiss chasing us, the roots snapping at our heels. The shadows followed, their chorus growing louder. "Rick, peace." And I felt it, a calm seeping in, seductive, promising an end to the fight. My vision blurred, green overtaking everything, and I saw them against trapped souls, hundreds of them, stretching back through time, their faces pressed against the roots, pleading, beckoning. I tripped, crashing to my knees, and Bonaventure hauled me up, his face grim, blood dripping from his arm. "Don't you dare give up," he snarled, but my body wasn't mine anymore. The green veins pulsed brighter, my skin splitting further, and I felt it a shift, deep inside, my thoughts fraying, the hunger taking over. I turned to him, claws flexing, and for a moment, I didn't see Bonaventure. I saw meat, a sacrifice, to feed the forest. "No," I roared, slamming my hands into the stone, cracking it under the force. The creature closed in, its amber eye glowing, and the roots surged, wrapping around my chest, my throat. Bonaventure slashed at them, his knife dripping with sap, but they kept coming, pulling me down. The mark flared, a final pulse, and I felt my mind slip Frank's voice. "Clear now, let go, Rick, it's over." But something snapped inside me, a flicker, a spark of who I'd been. Rick Callahan, not this thing, not their puppet. I clawed at the roots, tearing them from my flesh, green blood spraying as I screamed a raw, human scream. The creature shrieked, staggering back, its amber eye flickering, and Bonaventure fired again. The shot grazing its hollow face, sap bursting forth. The roots loosened, just for a second, and I lunged, grabbing Bonaventure's arm, pulling us both deeper into the ravine. The creature roared, the forest shaking with its rage, and the shadows closed, and Frank's claws slashing the air, inches from my back. We stumbled into a cave, a shallow hollow in the rock, and collapsed, gasping, the fog swirling at the entrance. I pressed my back to the wall, the mark still burning, the hunger still clawing, but I held on to Bonaventure's ragged breathing, to the faint spark of defiance left in me. The creatures I glowed outside, the roots slithering closer. and Frank's voice whispered one last time, "You can't fight forever." But I would. For now, I would. The cave was a shallow scar in the rock, barely a shelter, its walls slick with damp and streaked with that sickly green glow. I slumped against the stone, my chest heaving, the mark pulsing like a living thing beneath my torn shirt. Bonaventure crouched beside me, his knife dripping with sap, his arm oozing blood where the creature's claws had torn through. The fog churned at the entrance, thick and alive, carrying that rotting stench that clung to my lungs like a curse. Outside, the amber eye glowed a fixed point of malice in the swirling, dark watching, waiting. The roots slithered closer, their tips scraping the cave floor, probing the shadows for us. Bonaventure slashed at one, his breath ragged, his eyes wild but steady. "We're not dead yet, Callahan," he growled, wiping sap from his blade. "Focus, keep fighting." But my fight was slipping away. The mark burned hotter, green veins threading through my skin, splitting it open as they grew. My hands clawed, trembling flexed against my will. The hunger surging, a primal scream in my blood that drowned out everything human. "Rick," Frank's voice echoed through the cave. Not just one voice now, but a chorus tom. Carl, Winters, all of them, layered into a haunting drone. It wasn't outside anymore, it was here, bouncing off the walls, sinking into my skull. The shadows shifted at the entrance, their twisted forms shambling closer, bark-like skin glistening, eyes glowing green. Frank's face loomed clearest, roots bursting from his chest, his mouth gaping as he rasped, "It's time, come with us." I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block it out, but the voices were inside me, woven into the mark's pulse. My vision blurred, green overtaking everything, and I saw them hundreds of trapped souls, stretching back through centuries. Their faces pressed against the roots, their eyes pleading, accusing. The hunger roared louder, not just to join them but to feed them, to tear Bonaventure apart and offer his blood to the forest. My claws twitched, my body turning toward him, and I felt it, my mind slipping, my will crumbling. "Rick, don't." Bonaventure's shout snapped me back, his knife flashing as he slashed a root coiling around my leg. He grabbed my shoulders, shaking me, his face inches from mine. "You're still here. Look at me." His voice was a lifeline, but it was fraying. The creature's hiss slithered in Rick, mine, and the roots surged, bursting through the cave floor, wrapping around my waist, my throat. I choked, clawing at them, green blood seeping from my skin as they sank deeper. Bonaventure swung his knife, cutting me free, but the creature stepped closer. Its amber eye filling the entrance, its claws scraping the stone with a sound like shattering glass. The roots pulsed, dragging me toward it, and I felt the cave trembled, the walls cracking, the ground buckling as the forest tightened its grip. Frank's shadow loomed beside it, his claws reaching, and the chorus swelled. "Peace, Rick, peace." A lie so sweet, I almost believed it. My body wasn't mine anymore. The mark flared, a final searing pulse, and I lunged not away, but toward Bonaventure, my claws slashing the air. He dodged, barely, the knife clattering from his hand as he stumbled back, shock flashing across his face. "Rick, no," he shouted, but the hunger was deafening, drowning out his voice. My humanity, a distant flicker, I could barely grasp. The creature roared, a sound that shook the cave, and the roots yanked me forward, pulling me to my knees before it. Its amber eye burned into me, and I saw my reflection, not Rick Callahan, but a twisted thing, green-veined, clawed, a shadow of the forest's making. The hunger consumed me, my hands reaching for Bonaventure, my mind screaming against it, but I couldn't stop. I wanted it, wanted his blood, his flesh, to feed the endless need. Bonaventure scrambled for his knife, his arm bleeding, his face grim. "You're not taking me, you bastard," he snarled at me, at the creature, at the forest itself. He lunged, driving the blade into my shoulder, not deep, but enough to jolt me. Pain flared, white-hot and human, cutting through the green haze, and for a split second, I was me again. I roared, shoving him away, my claws slashing the stone instead of his flesh, cracking it under the force. The creature shrieked, its claws slashing the air, and the roots tightened, dragging me closer. Bonaventure grabbed my arm, pulling against them, his strength fading. "Hold on, kid," he gasped. But the cave was collapsing stone, raining down, the green glow flaring brighter as the forest roared its fury. Frank's shadow reached me first, his claws sinking into my leg, and I felt it a cold, final pull, not just on my body, but my soul. "Rick, now." Frank's voice was a command, and the others joined. Now, their hands grasping, pulling me into the dark. The creature's claws hovered above me, poised to strike, and the mark pulsed one last time, a tidal wave of green swallowing my vision, my mind, my will. But then a spark, a memory, not Frank, not the forest, but Myrick Callahan, the kid who'd fished Onondaga Lake, who'd laughed at ghost stories, who'd come here to escape. I wasn't theirs. Not yet. With everything I had left, I tore free, ripping the roots from my flesh, green blood spraying as I lunged for Bonaventure. The cave shook, the creature's shriek splitting the air, and we stumbled toward the back wall just as it cracked open, a narrow fissure glowing with faint, natural light. Freedom. We dove through, the forest's roar chasing us, the amber eye burning into my back as the cave collapsed behind us, sealing the nightmare in, at least for now. We stumbled through the fissure, the cave collapsing behind us in a deafening roar of stone and earth, sealing the creature's shrieks and the roots thrashing beneath a tomb of rubble. I hit the ground hard, rolling down a muddy slope, Bonaventure crashing beside me, his knife skittering across the dirt. The fog was thinner here, the air cold but cleaner, free of that rotting stench at least for a moment. My chest heaved, green blood seeping from the claw marks on my leg, the marks still pulsing beneath my torn shirt, a faint glow that wouldn't fade. Bonaventure groaned, hauling himself up, his arms slick with red and sap, his face grim but alive. "You still with me, Callahan?" he rasped, his voice rough as the gravel under us. I nodded, barely, my hands trembling as I pressed them to the mark, feeling its heat through my skin. The hunger lingered, a dull ache in my bones, but the voices Frank's the others were gone, silenced by the collapse. For the first time in hours, my head was my own. "We made it," I croaked, my throat raw, but the words felt hollow. The forest stretched around us, dark and endless. The trees, standing tall and still, their branches swaying slightly in a breeze I couldn't feel. Bonaventure scanned the shadows, rifle in hand, his jaw tight. "Don't count on it, kid," he muttered, nodding toward the slope we'd tumbled down. The fissure was gone, buried under a wall of rock, but the ground beneath us trembled faintly, a pulse, too steady to be natural. I staggered to my feet, pain shooting through my twisted ankle, and leaned against a tree, then jerked back. Its bark was warm, faintly glowing with that green hue, veins pulsing beneath the surface. My stomach churned. The forest wasn't done, it was everywhere. In the trees, the soil, me. The mark flared, a sharp sting that made me gasp, and I felt it again, that pull. Subtle now, a whisper in my blood, urging me back to the dark. Bonaventure grabbed my arm, steadying me. "Keep moving. We're not safe yet." He led the way, limping but determined, cutting through the underbrush with his knife. The fog lingered, curling around us like a predator stalking its prey, and the silence was oppressive. No birds, no wind, just the faint rustle of leaves and the thud of our boots. Every step felt like defiance, but I couldn't shake the dread the forest was watching, waiting for me to falter. We reached a narrow stream, its water clear and cold, cutting through the forest like a lifeline. Bonaventure knelt, splashing his face, wincing as it stung his wounds. I followed, the icy bite snapping me out of the haze, but when I looked down, my reflection stopped me cold. My eyes green, faintly glowing, not human anymore, stared back, wide and wild. The mark had spread, veins threading up my neck, glowing through my skin like a map of the forest's claim. Bon, I whispered, my voice shaking. He turned, and his face hardened, his hand tightening on the rifle. Jesus, kid, he said, low and grim. It's deeper than I thought. Before I could answer, the stream rippled it naturally, against the current. Roots broke the surface, thin and wiry, curling toward us like fingers. Bonaventure yanked me back, firing into the water, the shots echoing through the trees. The roots retreated, but the ground trembled again, stronger now, and that hiss slithered through the air. Rick, faint but unmistakable, calling me back. We need to get to town, Bonaventure said, pulling me along. Long Lake, someone there might know how to stop this. But his voice wavered, and I saw the doubt in his eyes. The forest wasn't letting go, 'twas in me, spreading, rewriting me. My hands flexed, claws twitching, and the hunger stirred. A quiet growl in my gut I couldn't ignore. We pushed on, the trees growing denser, their trunks pulsing faintly with that green light. The path twisted, looping back on itself, and I felt it, the forest reshaping around us, guiding us deeper. Bonaventure cursed, slashing at branches that snapped down like traps, but they kept coming, relentless, hurting us. My vision blurred, green overtaking the edges, and Frank's voice whispered again, Rick, you're home. Soft, almost tender, pulling at the fraying threads of my will. I stumbled, crashing to my knees, and Bonaventure hauled me up, his grip bruising. Don't you dare give up, he snarled, but my body was heavy, the mark burning brighter, the hunger roaring louder. I saw him through its eyes prey, flesh to feed the forest stand. My claws flexed, green blood dripping from my fingertips. Bon, I can't, I gasped, shoving him away, but he held on, his face fierce. You're not theirs yet, he said, his voice a lifeline I clung to. Hold on just a little longer. He dragged me forward, the fog thickening, the trees closing in, and that hiss grew louder. Rick, mine, a promise, a threat, a truth I couldn't escape. Then a light, faint, flickering, cutting through the fog ahead. Headlights, maybe, or a lantern. Bonaventure squinted, hope flashing across his face. Their move. We staggered toward it, the roots snapping at our heels, the creature's hiss echoing closer, and I felt the mark pulse a final, desperate call to pull me back. But as we reached the light, the forest roared, the ground splitting beneath us, and I knew it wasn't over. It never would be. The light flickered ahead, a fragile promise cutting through the fog, and we stumbled toward it, Bonaventure dragging me, my legs heavy with the weight of the mark's hunger. My claws scraped the ground, green blood dripping from my torn skin, the forest's pulse throbbing in my chest, urging me to turn back, to surrender. The roots snapped at our heels, the creature's hiss. Rick, mine, weaving through the trees, closer now, a shadow in the mist that wouldn't let go. Bonaventure's grip tightened, his breath ragged but determined. Almost there. Kid, hold on. The light grew brighter, a pair of headlights piercing the dark, and for a fleeting second, I let myself believe it. Long Lake, safety, a way out. The truck's outline emerged, parked on a dirt trail, engine idling, a beacon in the nightmare. But the forest roared, a guttural bellow that shook the earth, and the ground split beneath us, roots surging upward like spears. I dove, shoving Bonaventure aside as a root speared the spot where we'd stood, dirt exploding around us. The truck was close 20 yards, maybe less, but the forest wasn't giving up. The trees bent inward, their branches weaving a cage, glowing faintly with that green vein's light. My vision blurred, the mark flaring, and I felt its hunger twisting. not just for Bonaventure now, but for everything. A ravenous void swallowing my will. Move. Bonaventure yelled, firing his rifle into the fog, the shots echoing as he hauled me toward the truck. The roots lashed out, one catching his leg, yanking him back. He slashed with his knife, sap spraying, and I grabbed his arm, pulling with a strength that wasn't mine. Green veins pulsing brighter, my claws sinking into his jacket. He grunted, breaking free, and we staggered the last few yards, crashing against the truck's side. The driver's door was open, but no one was inside. The engine hummed, headlights casting long, jagged shadows, but the cab was empty. Keys dangling in the ignition, a faint smear of blood on the seat. My stomach dropped. Where's the driver? I rasped, my voice hoarse, the mark burning hotter as I scanned the fog. Bonaventure didn't answer, shoving me into the passenger seat and leaping behind the wheel. Doesn't matter, go. He slammed the truck into gear, tires spinning on the mud as we lurched forward. The roots surged, wrapping around the axles, but he floored it, the engine screaming as we tore free, branches snapping against the windshield. The creature's hiss followed, louder, angrier, and I glimpsed its amber eye in the rearview mirror, glowing, unblinking, closer than it should have been. The truck barreled down the trail, the forest blurring past, but something was wrong. The path twisted, narrowing, the trees pressing closer, their trunks pulsing with green light. My chest throbbed, the mark sinking with them, and I felt it a shift, a loop. The trail wasn't leading out, it was circling back. Bon, we're not, I started, but the words choked off as the headlights caught it. The same blood-smeared seat, the same truck, abandoned ahead. Bonaventure slammed the brakes, the truck skidding to a stop. What the hell? He muttered, staring at the duplicate identical, down to the keys, glinting in the ignition. The fog thickened, swallowing the edges of the trail, and the forest went silent to silent, a void that pressed against my skull. The mark flared, a searing jolt, and I doubled over, green blood dripping from my nose, staining the dashboard. Rick, Frank's voice whispered, not from outside but inside the truck, slithering through the air vents, the seats, my mind. The shadows shifted, and there they were. Frank, Tom, Carl, Winter shambling from the fog, their bark-like forms glowing faintly, roots trailing behind them like leashes. Frank's face split into a grotesque grin, his eyes green and vacant. You can't leave. You're us now? Bonaventure fired through the windshield, glass shattering, but the bullets sank into them uselessly, sap oozing as they closed in. The roots burst from the ground, spearing the truck's undercarriage, rocking it violently. I clawed at my chest, the marks spreading, veins threading up my throat. My face, I could feel them, under my skin, rewriting me. The hunger roared, and I saw Bonaventure through its eyes prey, a sacrifice, his blood a gift to the forest. Bon, get out, I roared, shoving him toward the door, my voice guttural, monstrous. He resisted, grabbing my arm, but I tore free, my claws slashing the air, inches from his throat. I'll kill Hugo. The creature's hiss filled the cab. Rick, mine, and I felt my body turn, not toward escape, but back, toward the forest, the hunger pulling me like a tide. Bonaventure kicked the door open, tumbling out, rifle in hand. I'm not leaving you, he shouted, firing at the shadows, but the roots surged, wrapping around the truck, dragging it me back toward the trees. The headlights flickered, the engine died, and the cab darkened. Green light pulsing from my skin, illuminating Frank's twisted face as he pressed against the window, whispering, "Home, Rick, home." I slammed my claws into the dashboard, cracking it, fighting the pull, the hunger, the voices. The truck rocked, roots piercing the floor, coiling around my legs, and the creature loomed closer, its amber eye burning through the fog. My reflection in the cracked windshield wasn't mine. Green eyes, clawed hands, a thing of the forest, not a man. Bonaventure fired again, a desperate shot grazing the creature, and it shrieked, staggering back. He lunged for me, grabbing my arm, pulling against the roots. But they tightened, sinking deeper, green blood seeping from my wounds. "Hold on, damn it," he yelled, his voice fading as the hunger drowned it out. Frank's whisper overtaking everything. "Let go. It's over." The truck lurched, dragged backward, and I felt it, my last shred of humanity slipping, the forest claiming me, body and soul. The truck screeched as the roots dragged it backward, metal twisting under the forest's relentless grip. My claws tore into the seat, shredding it as the mark on my chest flared with a searing heat that drowned out everything Bonaventure's desperate shouts. The creature's hiss echoing through the fog, even my own ragged gasps. Green blood oozed from my torn skin, pooling on the floor. And the hunger wasn't just a whisper, anymore it was a roar. A feral beast clawing through my veins, shredding what was left of me. Bonaventure lunged across the cab, his hands slick with sweat and blood, grabbing my arm and pulling against the roots that coiled tighter, sinking into my flesh like barbed wire. "Rick, fight it," he bellowed, his voice raw, cutting through the chaos. But it was fading, swallowed by Frank's whisper. "Let go. It's over." Joined by Tom, Carl, Winters, the chorus of the damned weaving into the creature's hiss, tugging me into the abyss. My body jerked, not toward Bonaventure, not toward escape, but back, toward the forest, the roots, the amber eye burning through the mist. The truck rocked, roots piercing the roof with a deafening crunch, glass raining down as the last of the windshield shattered. I saw the creature, its bark-like form looming, claws flexing in the green glow, its hollow face tilting as if it could taste my surrender. The mark pulsed, green veins bursting through my skin, threading up my throat, into my eyes, and I felt it, my mind slipping, my will bending, breaking under the forest's weight. "Rick," Bonaventure's voice cracked like a whip, and he slashed at the roots with his knife, black sap spraying across us both. He yanked at my arm, his grip bruising, fighting to pull me free, but the forest was stronger and yielding, eternal. The roots tore me from his hands, dragging me through the ruined cab, out into the fog-soaked night. I hit the ground hard, mud and green blood mixing beneath me, the air thick with that rotting stench that choked my lungs. The shadows closed in Frank first, his face a grotesque mask of bark and roots, his green eyes glowing with a hunger that mirrored mine. "Peace, Rick," he rasped, his clawed hand reaching, and the others echoed. "Peace, home," their voices soft, seductive, a promise of release. I clawed at the dirt, my scream lost in a guttural roar as the hunger surged, my claws flexing, my body turning not away, but toward Bonaventure, still at the truck's edge, rifle raised, his face etched with grim determination. "Forgive me, kid," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos, and fired. The bullet slammed into my chest, inches from the mark, pain exploding through me, white hot, real, human. I roared, green blood sprang, and lunged not at him, but at the roots, tearing them from my legs with a strength that wasn't mine anymore. The creature shrieked, its amber-eyed flaring, and the forest trembled, trees bending inward, roots surging like a tidal wave to drag me back. Bonaventure fired again, the shot grazing the creature's hollow face, sap bursting forth as it staggered. He dove for me, pulling me toward the truck's husk, his voice a lifeline move. Damn it, but the roots were relentless, wrapping around my waist, my throat, pulling me down into the mud. The amber eye loomed closer, the creature's claws slashing the air, and I felt it, the final pull, a cold, unyielding force claiming my body, my soul, the mark glowing brighter, swallowing me whole. My vision darkened, green overtaking everything, and I saw them, hundreds of trapped souls, their faces glowing faintly in the roots, their hands reaching, pulling me in. Frank's claws closed around my wrist, cold and unyielding, his voice clear and final. "You're us now. as the hunger consumed me, my last shred of humanity slipping away into the forest's endless night. The forest swallowed me whole, the green darkness closing in as the roots dragged me down, their grip sinking deeper into my flesh until I couldn't tell where they ended, and I began. My scream choked off, drowned by the mud and blood filling my throat, and the mark flared a wildfire of green veins exploding through my chest, my arms, my skull, rewriting me in its image. Bonaventure's voice, Rick, no, faded into a distant echo, his hand slipping from my wrist as the creature's claws slashed the air, missing me but grazing him, his blood splattering across my face, warm and fleeting. I hit the ground beneath the truck's wreckage, the roots coiling tighter, pulling me into the earth itself. The fog thickened, a suffocating shroud, and the hunger wasn't just inside MIT, was me, a ravenous beast tearing through my mind, shredding the last threads of who I'd been. My claws flexed, green blood dripping from split skin, my eyes glowing with that sickly light I'd seen in Frank's, inhuman, eternal, hungry. The forest pulsed with me, trees bending inward, roots rising like a tide, and I felt that their will, my will, one and the same. Bonaventure fought, his knife flashing in the dim light, slashing at the roots that surged toward him. "Get up, Callahan," he roared, firing his rifle until the chamber clicked empty, the shots useless against the forest's endless hunger. But I didn't move, not to escape, not to help. My body turned toward him, not as Rick, but as it is shadow of the green, a hunter driven by need. The roots lashed out, wrapping around his legs, his chest, dragging him down into the mud, and I lunged, my claws sinking into his arm, tearing through flesh with a sickening rip. His scream was fuel, feeding the hunger, and I felt the forest's joy, a pulsing, living thing, reveling in the feast. Blood-red humans soaked the ground, seeping into the roots, into me, and I roared. Not in pain, but in triumph, the mark glowing brighter as Bonaventure's struggles weakened. He swung his knife one last time, the blade grazing my side, but it was too late. The roots pulled him under, his eyes wide and unseeing, his scream cut off as the earth swallowed him whole. The creature loomed over me, its amber eye gleaming, its hollow face tilting as if in silent approval. The fog parted, revealing the ancient triad's gnarled trunk split, its green veins pulsing with a life fed by Bonaventure's blood, my blood, the blood of all who'd come before. Frank stepped from the shadows, his form fully bark-like now, roots trailing from his limbs like veins, his green eyes locking onto mine. "Welcome, Rick," he rasped, his voice a chorus with the others. "Tom, Carl, Winter's welcome home." I didn't fight it. I couldn't. The hunger was too strong, the mark too deep, the forest too vast. I stood, my claws dripping red and green. The hunger sated for a moment, but never gonna constant ache driving me toward the tree. Its bark split wider, a dark maw opening, pulsing with that green glow. And I saw them, souls trapped within, their faces faintly glowing, their hands reaching, pulling me closer. The last flicker of Rick Callahan, the ranger, the man who'd come to Escalating, swallowed by the green, and I stepped forward, the roots rising to meet me, wrapping around my legs, my arms, my throat. They pulled me in, the tree's maw closing around me, and I felt it, a cold, endless peace, a hunger that would never die, a purpose in the forest's eternal need. I wasn't me anymore. I was theirs, a shadow of bark and claw, a feeder of the green, forever bound to the Adirondacks' dark heart. The ancient tree's maw closed around me, its green glow swallowing me whole, and time dissolved into a haze of hunger and shadow. The roots didn't just hold me, they fused with me, threading through my bark-like skin, my claws, my bones, until I was no longer separate from the forest. I was the forest, a pulse in its endless veins, a whisper in its ceaseless need. My eyes glowed green, unblinking in the dark, and the hunger was my heartbeat, driving me through the trees, an eternal servant to the Adirondacks' will. Frank stood beside me, his form twisted beyond recognition, roots bursting from his chest. His face split with cracks that oozed black sap, his green eyes mirroring mine. Tom, Carl, Winters, they were there too, shadows of what they'd been, their claws sharp, their hunger endless. Bonaventure joined us soon after, his grizzled features warped into bark, his eyes vacant, yet alive, a silent hunter in our ranks. We moved as one, bound by the creature's amber eye, its hiss a constant command echoing through the fog. Days bled into nights, seasons shifting in a blur. I couldn't measure time, meant nothing beneath the forest's sway. I felt them new souls wandering into our domain, drawn by the silence, the solitude, blind to the trap woven into the trees. Hikers, campers, lost travelers, their footsteps stirred the roots, their breaths fed the hunger, and we hunted. The creature guided us, its claws gleaming, its hollow face tilting as we struck, dragging them screaming into the earth, their blood soaking the soil, feeding the trees, pulsing veins. Each kill was a ritual, a feast for the forest's heart. I saw myself in them, Rick Callahan, the ranger who'd come to escape, who'd fought and lost, but that memory was a flicker, buried beneath the green, crushed by the hunger. The forest whispered to me, not with words, but with Nita, cold, eternal peace, a purpose in the endless hunt. I didn't resist. I couldn't. I was, it's now, a shadow among the roots, a claw in the dark. The tree stood at the center, its gnarled trunk glowing brighter with every soul we claimed, its roots spreading deeper, wider, threading through the Adirondacks like a web of green veins. Long Lake shrank in the distance, its people whispering tales of vanishings, of rangers lost to the woods, but they didn't know, couldn't know, the truth beneath the pines. The forest wasn't haunted, was alive, and we were its beating heart, its endless feeders. One night, a woman came, a journalist, her flashlight cutting through the fog, her voice sharp with questions as she scribbled in a notebook. I felt her, a pull not just of hunger, but of something deeper, a faint echo of Rick Callahan stirring in the green. She stood at the tree's edge, peering into the dark, her eyes fierce, alive, like mine once were. The forest stirred, the roots rising, the creature's amber eye glinting. But I hesitated, my claws twitched, a spark of memory flickering, a shadow of defiance against the hunger. Rick. Frank's voice rasped beside me, a command laced with the choruston. Carl, Winters, Bonaventure, and the hunger roared, drowning the spark. We moved, shadows in the fog, claws slashing, roots surging, and her scream joined the others, sharp and fleeting, her blood soaking the ground, feeding the tree. Her flashlight clattered to the earth, its beam flickering out, and I felt it, the forest's pleasure, a pulse of green that washed over me, binding me tighter to its will. The spark was gone, buried again, and I stood among the roots, my claws dripping, my green eyes glowing, watching the night reclaim her. I was theirs, forever a hunter, forever a feeder, forever a shadow of the forest's endless hunger. The Adirondacks stretched silent and vast, a sea of trees swaying under a sky that never seems to clear, a deceptive calm, masking the pulse beneath. I am here, woven into the roots, my bark-like skin cracked and glowing with green veins, my claws sharp and restless, my eyes burning with the forest's light. Frank stands with me, Tom, Carl, Winters, Bonaventure, all of us shadows now, bound to the endless hunt, our hunger a song that never fades. The creature roams among us, its amber eye a beacon in the fog, its hiss our eternal command, guiding us through the dark. The ancient tree looms at the heart, its trunk split and pulsing, its roots threading deeper into the earth with every soul we claim, fed by blood, by fear, by the lives we drag screaming into its embrace. It glows brighter, a living monument to the forest's will. Long Lake huddles at the edge, its people whispering tales of the woods that take of rangers lost to the shadows, but they don't understand. They call it haunted, a place of ghosts, but it's not. The forest is alive, and we are its soul, its claws, its endless feeders. I feel them still new wanderers, their footsteps stirring the soil, their voices trembling in the silence. Hikers seeking beauty, campers chasing solitude. They come, and we take, the roots rising, the hunger driving us forward. Their screams blend into the chorus, their blood soaks the earth, and the tree pulses, its green veins threading wider, claiming more. Each kill buries Rick Callahan deeper, the man who'd fought, who'd lost until he's nothing but a flicker, a faint echo drowned by the forest's song. The hunger is me now, a constant ache, a purpose I can't escape. I don't fight it, he can't. The forest whispers, not with words but with need, a cold peace that binds me to its roots, its shadows, its endless cycle. I see myself in the trapped souls, their faces glowing faintly within the tree, their hands reaching but I don't reach back. I hunt, I feed, I serve, a shadow among the pines, forever bound to the Adirondack's dark will. Sometimes, in the quiet, I feel it a tremor, a memory of Rick Callahan, the kid who'd skipped school to fish Onondaga Lake, who'd laughed at ghost stories, who'd come here to escape. It's faint, buried beneath the green, crushed by the hunger, but it lingers, a whisper against the forest's roar. I see it in the eyes of those we take fear, defiance, the spark I once had before the roots pull them under, before their light joins ours and the trees glow. One night, the fog rolls thick, the wind dies still, and I stand at the edge of a trail, watching, waiting. A hiker stumbles through, his flashlight flickering, his breath fogging in the cold. The roots stir, the creature's amber eye glints, and Frank's voice rasps beside me. Rick, now, a command I obey. We move, shadows in the mist, claws slashing, roots surging, and his scream is brief. His blood a gift to the forest's endless need. The tree pulses, pleased, and I feel it the peace, the hunger, the eternal watch. I am theirs, a shadow among the roots, a hunter in the green, forever bound to the Adirondack's dark heart. And if you listen on a quiet night, when the fog cloaks the trails and the silence presses close, you might hear it a hiss, a growl, a name whispered through the trees. Rick, calling you to join us, to feed the forest's song. The Adirondacks endure, silent and waiting, and I endure with them a shadow, a claw, a whisper in the green, forever hungry, forever here.